Civil society organizations in Zimbabwe demand the immediate release of journalist and pro-democracy activist Itai Dzamara, failure of which we will lobby SADC and AU member states to remove President Robert Mugabe from chairing these two regional blocs. Itai Dzamara was reportedly abducted by 5 unknown people allegedly linked to the dreaded Central Intelligence Organization in Harare's Grandview 7 setup on Monday, March 9, 2015. Civil society unanimously calls upon Itai Dzamara's abductors to immediately release him. His protest action, for which he is clearly being harassed by the state, are protected by Section 59 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Beyond the assurances from police and Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa, which we are skeptical of basing on past instances where they turned out to be insincere, government must facilitate a speedy and judicious process that brings Itai back. Civil society has every reason to think that the state is complacent in such abductions, as shown by the abduction and disappearance of human rights defender Jesina Mkoko in December 2008, who was eventually brought to Matati police station in Bari after 21 days, and the perpetrators have never been apprehended. Undemocratic actions such as abductions, intimidation, and torture by the state against activists are disheartening when the lives of Zimbabweans are becoming even more difficult due to the government's failure to address the worsening socio-economic challenges the country is facing. Civil society urges the authorities to ensure the perpetrators are persecuted, as failure to do so will mean further abductions in the future, with the perpetrators always knowing they will walk scot-free as they have done in the past. We, the civil society organizations gathered here, therefore, call upon the government to do the following. Number 1, to expeditiously bring Itai back safely, and the prosecution of those responsible for his abduction with immediate effect. 2, to address the worsening socio-economic challenges in the country, of which such protest actions are a symptom, and ensure peace and stability instead of ruthlessly victimizing activists who are descending and pointing out the government's failure in uplifting people's lives. 3, to at all times strive to adhere to the Constitution and the rule of law and allow for democratic expression. 4, to urge its state apparatus to adhere to professional conduct in the execution of their duties and to respect the Constitution of the Republic of Zimbabwe. Number 5, if the government fails to bring Itai Dzamara back immediately, civil society will lobby SADC and the AU to remove President Robert Mugabe from chairing these institutions. Our argument is that we cannot have the head of SADC and the head of AU being the head of abductors and people who make citizens disappear. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ruan. That is the statement. Maybe the panel members here have something to add. Comrade Maia.
I think it is the responsibility of the state to protect citizens. And in the case where a citizen like Itai Dzamara is missing, we expect the state to play a role in ensuring that he is safe and secure, and that the welfare of other citizens that might undertake such actions to protest against the state are protected by the law and the new Constitution of Zimbabwe. So the state should protect citizens. That's the goal of the state.
Thank you.
I think it's important for the state to recognize that what has happened in terms of Itai Dzamara's disappearance is actually unlawful. And I think as hours pile and days pile, I think our fears of what might happen to Itai are really concerning us at this point in time. And we really appeal that those who are holding him release him immediately, because I think we have even passed the 48 hours when somebody is supposed to be brought to court, and to date we have not seen him appear in court. His family do not know where he is, and I think this system of abducting people is really archaic, and I think our country needs to move in terms of avoiding the enforced disappearance of its citizens.
What's going through your mind at the moment? You were a victim in 2007.
It's actually 2008. And I think when I look at the days when I was inside, when no one knew where I was, it was a frightening experience, and also untold suffering for my family.
What is happening in the case of Itai Dzamara is a clear symptom of constitutional violation by the state. Forthwith, the state should move with speed to ensure that they align the old laws of the new constitution, but not only do that, they should uphold the spirit of adhering to constitutional principles in order to protect its citizens.
Thank you. So let them know, we have given the President another time, but if you feel you want something to be immediately reacted to, you are free to do that. We promote free expression here at the media center. Okay. Comrade Cheese.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that the abduction of Itai Dzamara is an indication of the time when the government of Zimbabwe becomes jittery about something that we are all not aware of. What we know as citizens and as people who are coming from civil society is that all is not well from the communities that we work in terms of social service delivery, in terms of people managing to get their bread on their tables. And the people who are supposed to be responsible for that is none other than the government. And in return, if someone then cries out to have bread on their table, they are replied by abductions or disappearances. So for us from civil society, we are seeing a government that is no longer having confidence in its own citizens in terms of how they remain loyal to it or otherwise. So for the call that we are seeing is what has happened to Itai right now, it might just be the first experience, it might just be the first experience, experiment that is being put, one, to see how we as citizens of Zimbabwe are going to react to his abduction. But as much as we respect what the government does, we also call upon, like we have said in our statement, the sincerity in terms of the statements that are coming, especially from the VP of the country, to say they are equally worried, because they have got the responsibility. So if the whole government becomes worried, then what remains of Itai wherever he is? And for us from civil society, we say, Itai, just keep on hoping, wherever you are, just keep on praying, and we are with you in spirit until you come back home alive and safe.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chesi. Mr. Bodley, maybe you have something to say?
I'll simply add that we believe government has capacity to find out where it is. We appeal to them to expeditiously put all their machinery into place to protect him. This is one, as he is a Zimbabwean, he has the right to be protected by the state. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me also to welcome colleagues from the Zimbabwean Lawyers for Human Rights. Maybe they also have something to say. You can come up front, my friend.
Thank you.
So we'll just give them an opportunity to also say something pertaining to this abduction.
Thank you very much. From the lawyer's perspective, it's so sad to work on a case where you actually don't even speak to a client, where a client just vanishes in the air and nothing is leading to exactly where they are. Of course, in as much as there are statements by authorities that they are investigating, so far we haven't had any updates in terms of what exactly is being done, and it would have assisted us also to understand exactly what is being done on the ground by those who are supposed to be investigating this. And as someone also indicated, we also believe that the state has the capacity actually to do all sorts of investigations that are actually needed. And so far we're not feeling it. We're not feeling the efforts in terms of actually trying to find him. And what is at odds is that actually the suspicion points to state agents having abducted him. So it becomes very difficult, and sometimes it actually buttresses our suspicions in terms of exactly who took him. But as far as the process is concerned, we are still waiting for a confirmation of a set-down for the matter that we filed at the High Court, hoping that actually it will also be something that will be of assistance in terms of actually coming up with an order. Because the order, in the order, was simply seeking to say, okay, in the event that the state agents actually are declining, that they know where he is, at least they should start doing a program of investigation where they will be updating the registrar of the High Court at 10 a.m. every day as to the progress of their investigations and what exactly they did. In the event that he is found, he is released, and it would be very unfortunate if he is found in a state where his rights would have been violated further, because the abduction itself is actually a violation of his fundamental rights. So we keep on making follow-ups with the court system to make sure that maybe by the end of the day tomorrow, we are hoping that maybe by tomorrow the matter will be set down, so that maybe at least we have a judicial pronouncement in the matter. Because so far these are just political statements that are there. At least if we also get a judicial pronouncement about the matter, it will also instruct us on the further course of action as from the legal point of view.
Okay, thank you. That is the perspective from the lawyers, and I think it is going to go help in terms of information. Maybe you will answer to more questions that may be there as we get into question and answer. So this actually kick-starts our question and answer. Maybe we have questions over the statement and also questions over other issues that have been pronounced by leaders of the civil society organizations up front. This is the time. I also take note of the fact that we also have civic activists within among us here. They also have an opportunity to make statements. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to ask you from civil society, especially, if there are any measures that are planned or that are going to be put in place to make sure that we safeguard and make sure that the activists that we have in civil society and other places are also secure and they don't suffer the same predicament.
Okay, so maybe let me give it to Mr. Wang. Maybe he can try to read from the statement.
No, our position is very clear. It is the fundamental role of any government, including the Zimbabwe government, to protect its own citizens. And if you are a government and you are not able to play your fundamental role as a government, it means your legitimacy becomes questionable. So if this government wants to maintain some level of legitimacy, they must make sure that their citizens are safe. And it is the role of government to protect that. That's why we are having this press conference. But we also pointed out that we will call upon SADC and the AU to make sure that the government of Zimbabwe respect the rule of law, protect its own citizens, and they cannot have a chair of both AU and SADC where citizens are being abducted willy-nilly like what we have seen in the past. So there will be advocacy programs, and you will be updated of any internal domestic programs that will surely come.
Okay, maybe Justina, you have something to say on that?
I think I wanted to speak about the assurances from the police. If I recall, from 2008, there was confirmation by the police that they were going to institute investigations into my disappearance. And they also promised that if the kidnappers were found, they would be charged. But I think you all know up to this day that those people have been protected. They have not been charged. And I think we're having the same thing around Itai Dzamara, where the police are assuring us that they're going to investigate. I just hope and pray that he does not come out of the police cell the same way that I did when the police initially denied that I was in their hands.
I think, Comrade Kutsi, civic society has its own social safety network systems, particularly I will mention CSU and the lawyers. So we can only do as much as we can do. But the state also, like what Dr. Rania said, has got an important role it has to play in terms of protecting its own citizens. If the state becomes a monster against its own citizens, citizens are also left with no choice but become monsters against the state.
All right, so he's saying citizens will become monsters against the state. I don't know whether he's referring to civil society or the generality of citizens. Maybe let's say something from the chiefs.
Yeah, I think the sad thing as well, which also makes our position a bit weak, is that any voice of discontent that comes from civil society is quickly aligned to opposition politics. And the state is quick to say people are opposing what is happening simply because they belong to this opposition corner. And as we saw yesterday, or in the last 48 hours, we saw the president of the Movement for Democratic Change coming up with a statement. We saw the Youth Assembly of the Movement for Democratic Change yesterday coming up with a march. And in any case, whatever voice that then comes in after that, it will be perceived as if it's opposition politics. So in that regard, it even makes our efforts even more difficult to express ourselves without being aligned to some political agenda. But for us, our cause is very genuine. It's about a person's safety. To those who know Itai not from Africa Unity Square, but in the day-to-day life, he is an innocent citizen who deserves an equal opportunity to be heard if there are any issues. And there is no reason why the government can pick up on Itai as someone who can be deemed a weapon of mass destruction, right? To such an extent that he is closed out in everything. But we also have, as citizens, the responsibility of understanding why the government has begun this kind of route at this particular juncture in time. So whilst we also want to protect ourselves, we can't stop highlighting the issues that are happening to innocent citizens as if nothing is happening. So we also need to amplify it. And like what Dr. Rania said, the responsibility of AU and SADC does not in any way lie in watching these things happening. We haven't heard a statement coming from any of the SADC nations. We have heard statements coming from elsewhere, far from Zimbabwe. So that responsibility still has to be homegrown, and the solution still has to remain homegrown.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Maya.
Okay, I think whilst we should be worried about the security of civil society activists, our main concern should also be the security of the general citizens of Zimbabwe. The abduction of Itai Dzamara is targeted to instill fear, not only in activists, but the generality of Zimbabweans who are suffering because of poverty and because of lack of opportunity. So civil society leaders are not a speech that should be protected. Only the citizens of Zimbabwe will be protected. And that duty and responsibility resides in the government of Zimbabwe. So the government of Zimbabwe should protect citizens, whether they are civil society leaders, whether they are activists or not activists, they should be protected.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we heard of the safety net, maybe something to say from the Zimbabwe lawyers and then from...
For me, a safety net for us is legal services. But the problem is sometimes it actually defeats the purpose of the word safety, where, like I said, and I lamented earlier on, where I will have to litigate on behalf of a missing litigant. Sometimes even the word, the literal meaning of safety is actually defeated, because as I'm litigating and running around to seek legal recourse, I know my client is not safe. So sometimes it's very difficult, and with safety nets sometimes they tend to be reactionary rather than proactive, and you are just reacting to a situation that is already happened, but the word safety itself would have been defeated already.
Any more questions?
How many organizations should we say are in agreement or appended to this statement.
Comrade Mao.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Columbus. So far, we had more than 20 organizations that attended the meeting, but we are likely to get more endorsements later in the day, because this statement will be circulated to some of the members, both of the coalition and all other networks within Zimbabwe. So we are likely to reach maybe close to 80 organizations as usual, because this case is a serious issue and we're treating it with the seriousness it deserves. And I'm quite confident that, considering the fact that we are dealing with the human rights defender, the pro-democracy activist, where all of us are coming from, it's an injury to one of us, and it's an injury to all, and also an injury to citizens.
Any further questions? I don't seem to see any further questions, so by way of this, I think we are moving to close. Maybe our panelists have just final words, with just 1 minute. You may want to leave with the gentlemen and ladies from the meeting. We will start here.
The missing person is a reporter on the training, so I expect the media also to see him as one of their colleagues and push the ball forward.
Thank you. From my point, I just urge the media to report responsibly, because sometimes it defeats the whole purpose, especially where I be sitting, where I start seeing things on the media that are actually misleading and are not there. Like yesterday, I had a number of rumors which actually ended up being carried over on the media that the client had been found. And I think the best way, we are there to confirm any developments that could be there. If anyone has got any leading information, it would be better to put the information through those who are on the ground running around, so that it's confirmed before it goes on print, because sometimes it just brings chaos and confusion if there are conflicting reports and information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think from where we stand as civil society, we just call upon the return of Itai Dzamara safe to his family and to his community that he is usually used to.
Just to say to the faction of ZAN that is in power, they have to prove to Zimbabweans that they are not hardliners, and that they are not people who promote lawlessness, and that they will uphold the rule of law in the country. Because there is a perception that the faction that ascended in the past Congress of ZANU is a faction that is hardly a law-abiding faction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would just want to advise the state to stop whatever it's doing. Civic society is watching, citizens of Zimbabwe are watching. We should not be deterred by the abduction of Itai Dzamara, but indeed we should be strengthened to fight on, to fight further. So we are prepared to tackle the state head on with no fear or any reservation whatsoever, in any form.
Okay, thank you.
Itai Dzamara, like any other citizen in Zimbabwe, is supposed to be protected by the law. It is unlawful abductions are unlawful in Zimbabwe. And the subjection of people to inhuman and degrading treatment is also unlawful. And so it is our appeal that the state needs to demonstrate that they are doing something in terms of protecting Itai Dzamara.
Thank you.